Hi there. I speak softly, so if I start fading, just yell at me, just as a FYI. And like Gray mentioned, I am the final boss of today's tracks, so I won't hold you up too long before we all go get drinks after this. But welcome to Tatakai, the power of persistence in your development career. Hi there, my name's Ameer Sami. I'm a senior software engineer. In my free time, I like to bake delicious baked goods. I like to program. It's not just a profession, it's a hobby of mine as well. I like to hike and explore nature. And I also like to lift heavy circles for some weird reason. I don't know why. So today, what I really want to discuss is how you can use persistence for success in your career. Before I move any further, just by a show of hands, how many of you are seasoned or experienced developers? Yes? Okay. We have about maybe half of the room or so. And then how many of you are more junior or new developers? Okay, so yeah, so about half. Okay, good. So this talk will help address some of the issues that junior developers face. And as senior developers or more experienced developers, you can take the same advice I'm going to discuss today to better mentor and lead and provide guidance to your junior developers, ultimately leading to them asking you less questions. So you're asking, Ameer, what is Tatakai? Why did I call this talk Tatakai? Well, Tatakai is a Japanese word which actually translates to fight. I not only wanted to call this or title the talk Tatakai because it's a catchy talk title, but it also embodies the point I want to get across, which is the importance of fighting through and persisting through problems in your development career. As the very nature of being a software engineer, you face problems and you solve those problems every day. And many times it's multiple problems every day. But where a lot of junior developers fail is that they don't persist through those problems. They face a problem and they kind of put their hands up and say, I don't know what to do. And they go to their senior developer or their lead and say, hey, can you help me? And that's something that I've noticed over the many years that I've been a software engineer that a lot of junior developers face. Also, I'm a big anime fan. So it's something that they say in a lot of animes. This is from a very popular anime called Demon Slayer. I can see some faces, see some looks from you guys. I'm not going to mention animes much after this. It's just honorable mention, that's all. So I've been a software engineer for quite some time. Looks can be deceiving. And over the past 8 years specifically, I've had the opportunity to mentor and lead tons of developers, either through internships or mentorship opportunities as well. So I provide mentorship to college students, new grads, and then new developers as well. And over the years, I've come to realize, or rather recognize, how to categorize developers as either good, average, or amazing developers. And you're probably asking, how can I identify, or what makes the difference between a good and an amazing developer? Well, the industry will tell you that you do this by asking technical questions, woohoo. So something along the lines of how do you merge two binary trees? How do you find the intersection of two arrays? I'm sure we've all seen some sort of variation or iteration of many of these questions. And then you're supposed to go from this and you're supposed to ask, okay, what's the time complexity? What's the space complexity of the solution that you've implemented? And that's supposed to provide you insight in terms of what sort of developer that the developer is that you're speaking to. But in reality, all this really does is provide you insight of how a developer can more effectively recognize what sort of algorithm to utilize, but it doesn't give you insight into their problem-solving skills. So I kind of like to ignore those technical questions, and I like to ask brain teasers, not just in interviews, but also when you're just trying to gauge what sort of developer you're talking to. So there's many brain teasers out there. I like to ask questions like this one, like how do you identify, or how do you find the heaviest ball in a set of 9 balls? Just as an example. But I'm not asking you guys to answer this question, don't worry. And by asking brain teasers like that, are you able to figure out or categorize if a developer is a good developer or an amazing developer, and you can kind of create a plan on how to move a good developer into the amazing developer category. So a good developer, when faced with a brain teaser question, will often give up rather quickly. They're not going to provide you many solutions or multiple solutions. They're going to give it an attempt for maybe a minute or so and say, I don't know what to do, I'm going to give up. Versus an amazing developer will spend quite some time and iterate upon the solution that they've worked on. They're going to ask tons of questions and they're not going to give up. And that's what today's talk really boils down to, is this idea of persisting through problems, not giving up, and how it makes you an amazing developer and helps you move from good to amazing. So with that said, there's 4 things that I've identified over the years of my mentorship and leadership experience that will allow you to become an amazing developer. And so the first area I want to focus on is patience and failure. So the more seasoned or experienced developers here today are very familiar with errors. Right? You write code, you get errors. That's just the nature of the job. Right? You also get errors in your CI and CD pipelines. This is really angry Jenkins if you use Jenkins. Or if you use React Native, you've probably seen this really ugly error screen. It's really scary. Right? And the point of me bringing all this up is that as a junior developer, you see this big red text, this big red wall, and you say, oh no, I've broken something. There's no point of return. I can't fix this. I need to go run to my lead or my senior developer. I don't know what I'm doing. But the power and the beauty of the industry that we're in is the ability to iterate rather quickly. Unlike other engineering disciplines that require a engineer to spend a lot of time on a single iteration, whether that's manufacturing something physical or creating electrical circuit or something like that, in software, you can perform hundreds of iterations within the span of a couple of minutes. Right? Obviously, if you use something, some languages are a little slower, but in general, this is very true, right? And by iterating multiple times rather quickly, you can reach successful solutions or solutions that work very, very quickly. And the same grace that you provide your software, you should provide to yourself, and be patient with yourself in the way that you speak about yourself to others and also to yourself as well. A lot of junior developers, when they're asked to do something, they'll simply say, I can't do that, or I don't know how to do that. Not only is this negative, but it also shows to your manager, as well as your coworkers and your peers, that you're not willing to take the time to learn, which is one of the main goals of a junior developer. You should have to learn that stuff, right? You're not expected to know everything from the day one, right? We're not all born software engineers. Some of you may disagree with that, but I don't think so. Instead, you should rephrase, and you should say, I need some time to figure it out, or I can figure out how to do that. Not only does this provide confidence to your team, but also shows that you're willing to put in the work to grow your skill set and learn new things. And the point of this talk is not to be a self-help talk, but the way you talk about yourself to yourself is very important. There's a lot of studies out there into self-talk and the impacts of it on your skills and your ability to solve problems and that sort of stuff. But the same way that you're communicating to others, you should communicate to yourself. Look at problems as interesting solutions to solve as opposed to just challenges and roadblocks. Next is making things hacky. So junior developers encounter problems every day, right? This is me every day. Lots of questions, lots of problems. And junior developers don't know where to start when they're facing a lot of problems. There's a lot of different ways to approach a problem. Or conversely, a junior developer could have a single solution to a single problem, and they'll kind of bang their head away at that single solution and not be able to iterate on it. And they end up spinning their wheels and taking a lot of time. Instead, I suggest what a junior developer does in not being paralyzed by analysis through many options. They should spend a lot of time iterating rather quickly through the power of iteration that software provides us to solve problems. So what I suggest you do is, the first attempt might not work at solving a problem. Write down a list of a couple hacky solutions that you can think of to solve the problem that you're facing, and then just go down that list until you land on something that works. That's step 1. Step 2 is once your hacky solution is working, focus on making it better. Look into how you can improve the performance of the hacky solution that you built, and also try to identify some features that you missed in the first pass of your hacky solution. How can you add on to it and further develop the thing that you're working on? And once you have all the features implemented in your hacky solution, you should work on doing the important things like modularizing the code that you've written, breaking the initial solution into smaller reusable functions or components. And this might open the door to refactor other code elsewhere in your code base. Your hacky solution might have resulted in a bit of code that can improve the developer experience for other members on your team and can also improve the performance of your code base elsewhere. And all of this comes together to form a finalized or cohesive solution that which when you originally thought about it, seemed impossible, but now you have something built. So I know this is the last talk of the day, but this is still an interactive talk, so you can't get away from it. I'm just going to ask for 2 Hacky solutions. So the infamous, how can you build a to-do list app? In the simplest way possible, and in the most hacky way possible, how could you build a to-do list app? Something that allows a user to create a to-do item and save it somewhere. I'm not gonna move forward until someone raises their hand. So, yes, exactly. That's awesome. Anyone else want to take a crack at this? No one? One other person? Okay. Well, that was a great example of a hacky solution, right? That will work and it'll get you going in the right direction. Don't focus on, okay, what sort of database do I need to use? How do I persist it there? How do I implement some sort of auth mechanism to protect to-do items or lock them down to a single user? If you're just trying to build a to-do list app, focus on that stuff later, right? There's other features you can add, like titles, descriptions, maybe some sort of status, how you can delete them, and all that stuff. But when you're trying to answer the simple question of how can you build a to-do list app, start that basic level, the hackiest level, and then go from there. A lot of successful companies actually started like this. So this is a tried and true method of building software and applications and just products in general. Start with something simple and then go from there. Next is collaboration, like Vanilla Ice said. So collaborate and listen. Okay, so development doesn't have to be a solo journey. Right? You don't have to do this alone. Although I have kind of griped on having to iterate and iterate on your own, that's okay, but that doesn't always work. Eventually, you're going to run into a case where you don't know what to do and you just keep getting errors. And at that point, you should go and collaborate with another developer, do some sort of pair programming, or just have a conversation with someone that you're working with. But what you shouldn't do is go to them and say, hey, can you just do this for me? Don't do that. That will annoy your lead or your senior software engineer, whoever you're working with, and it also doesn't give you the opportunity to learn from your mistakes. So don't ask them just to do it for you. Instead, what I recommend is that you attempt it yourself. Document what you did, what worked, what didn't work, and have a conversation with the person that you're working with, not just asking them to do the work for you. This will not only open doors for you in terms of your career and make those relationships stronger, but what it will also do is it'll give you the opportunity to learn from those mistakes and learn from those developers as well. And lastly, doing the impossible. So, like I mentioned, junior developers face many problems every day, like all developers do. But seeing this list of problems in your day-to-day might seem impossible. You might encounter a question that you don't know how to approach it. You don't know what to do. We've all been there, right? We haven't grown up knowing how to use Kubernetes or Docker or anything else like that, but you have to learn. One quote that I really like to remind myself of when I encounter something like that is this quote right here, which is, everything around you that you call life was made up by people who are no smarter than you. This was by some guy who can't code. His name was Steve Jobs. And I really like this quote, not because I'm a big Steve Jobs fan, but because it's very true. We find ourselves in this kind of loop where we think, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. The people around me are smarter than me. I'm just going to say I can't figure this out. But in reality, the people that are around you, like the quote says, are no smarter than you. You can figure out solutions to the same problems that they solved given enough time. And with that mindset change, you're able to turn those problems into solutions. And it's not just for junior developers. I encounter this in my day-to-day as well. And my amazing manager will say, but you're Ameer. And that's not to boost my own ego or inflate my own ego, but that's just there to remind me that I can figure it out if I just give myself the chance and the space to do so. Another thing to remind yourself about doing the impossible is that we built the platforms that we're building for, right? Everything from assembly and above and below assembly too, right? We're made by humans. We don't have to deal with physics in a way, right? We're not locked by gravity or something like that. If we want to display a circle on a screen, we can figure out how to display a circle on a screen. And I know that's a simple example, but I think that you get the point. Also, think of it as a fun challenge, right? The problems shouldn't appear as roadblocks or blockers. Think of them as fun challenges, fun little exercises to solve. So that's the talk in total, really. So if you're a junior developer, I hope this helps you practice some skills and embrace some habits that you can use in your day-to-day to address those problems that you face. And for senior developers or more seasoned developers, I hope you can use these same habits to better inform the junior developers that you work with. And ultimately, that will lead to them asking you less questions and giving you more time to do the work that you need to do.